The sky split open, a golden rift tore through the heavens, spilling radiant light upon the darkened earth. Thunder roared like celestial drums, shaking the mountains and stirring the oceans. The world held its breath as he descended, a warrior, mighty and eternal, clothed in robes of brilliant white. His hair shone as pure as wool, and his eyes burned like the sun, not with wrath, but with an authority that could not be denied. Power radiated from him, rippling across the land like a rising tide. For centuries, darkness had ruled. But now, the light had come, men and women stood in awe. Some fell to their knees. Others wept, overwhelmed by a presence they had only dreamed of. The blind opened their eyes. The crippled stretched their hands toward the sky, feeling strength return to lifeless limbs. Chains, both seen and unseen, shattered at his mere presence, yet, deep in the alleyways and forgotten corners of the world, darkness stirred, a narrow passage, suffocated by mist. The air thickened, pressing inward. The walls seemed to close in. And then, they appeared, whispering, writhing, hollow-eyed specters, emerging from the blackness: fear, oppression, despair, the demons of old, feeding on the suffering of humankind. Their skeletal fingers reached, their mouths twisted in silent screams. Shadows crawled across the ground like living serpents, stretching toward him. Desperate to consume, they lunged. He raised his hand, a wave of golden light exploded from his fingers, tearing through the mist like fire through dry wood. The creatures shrieked. Their wretched forms convulsed, dissolving into nothingness as the light consumed them. His voice thundered across the earth: darkness trembles at my presence. I have come to break every chain. And the shadows fled. Beyond the ruined city, where the land bled into the abyss, stood the gates of hell, towering, grotesque, forged in suffering. Their black iron bars twisted into screaming faces. Their jagged edges dripping with the sorrow of the lost. Fire surged between the cracks, casting eerie shadows on the cursed ground. Before them, monstrous sentinels waited, guardians of the pit, their bodies shifting like smoke, their glowing eyes locked upon him. Then, a voice rose from the abyss: "You dare enter my domain?" A being emerged from the darkness, its form ever changing, shifting between shadow and flame. Ancient, hollow, corrosive. The Lord of Hell stepped forward, his grin stretching unnaturally wide. "None leave here alive," he sneered, but the warrior did not falter. "I do not come by my strength," he declared, "but by divine authority. The chains of hell will be broken." With a single strike of his blazing sword, he shattered the gates. Beyond the gates, the abyss stretched endlessly, a void of torment. Chains snaked across the blackened ground, binding thousands of lost souls, men and women imprisoned in sorrow, their voices long silenced by despair. They did not lift their heads. They did not speak. They had forgotten how. Then, he stepped into their midst. The warrior lifted his hand, and golden light poured forth, illuminating the abyss. The chains trembled. They cracked. And with a single word, he set the captives free. "Be free." One by one, the chains shattered. One by one, the prisoners fell to their knees, light flooding their beings. Their pain faded. Their burdens lifted. Their eyes opened, truly opened, for the first time in eternity. But the darkness would not surrender so easily. A tremor shook the abyss. And from the depths, they came. 3 colossal figures emerged, towering over the battlefield. They were ancient, older than the stars, rulers of hell's dominion. Death, a hollow, skeletal presence, his voice like a cold wind over graves. "All must bow to me." Darkness, shifting, formless, his whispers curling like vines around the mind. "Light cannot exist without me." A beam of divine light descended from the heavens, engulfing the rulers of the abyss. Their screams of defiance echoed for but a moment, before being silenced forever. Hell trembled, the darkness collapsed upon itself. Above the battlefield, the sky split once more, but not with war. With victory, a golden light pierced the abyss, shining upon the freed souls. The gates of heaven opened, vast, radiant, stretching beyond the eye could see. The warrior turned to those he had rescued: "Come with me." You are no longer captives, you are heirs to the kingdom of light. One by one, the freed souls stepped forward. Their chains had fallen away. Their bodies had been restored. And as they crossed the threshold into eternal peace, joy radiated from their very being. But before entering, the warrior turned back one last time. He looked upon the earth. The battle was won. The captives were free. A new dawn was rising. He lifted his sword high, and his voice echoed across creation, the light has triumphed. Walk in it, and fear no darkness. And as the gates of heaven closed, his name was spoken in reverence, in joy, in eternity, Jesus Christ. He was given the name above every name. At his name, every knee shall bow, in heaven, on earth, and under the earth. At his name, every tongue shall confess, he is Lord. He shattered the chains of hell for you. He fought the battle for you. You do not need to earn this victory. It is already won. Believe in him, for whoever calls upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. His name is Jesus Christ.